At the beginning of this year, we talked about splitting the year into 4 parts. Well, we finished the first part, and we are now at the beginning of the second part of the year. So, this is kind of the sequel to the first part. So, we want to talk about what we plan to do, kind of how we're doing. I don't know. We didn't really prepare too much for this episode. We're just going to kind of chill out and talk about the immediate future. So, I guess the question would be from me to you is, do you have a clear idea of what you want out of the next 3 months?
Yeah, that's the question I was dreading because no is the short answer. I do. I like this idea. It kind of feels like New Year's resolution time again, where you're like,
Right.
okay, cool, it's a clean slate. Let's make some plans. Let's do some stuff. So I'm excited about it. And I have been thinking about it. But yeah, what I want out of my life for the next 3 months is a hard question. Uh, but here's an attempt at an answer, I guess.
Okay.
I've kind of been writing some of these things down. Some of them have just been specific little things that I want. Like, okay, I want to work on this habit. I want to, make this thing better. I'm kind of trying to approach this block more as a bunch of small habits rather than the last 3 months, which was these major habits that I really had to work on. So last 3 months, the big things I did were waking up and going to bed at the same time every day, and then exercising every day. And then I had these sort of ideas about using the computer less and being more focused, and that was very hazy. And of course, it didn't work at all. So I still got to deal with that. But that was last month block. Learned some lessons. So I got a bunch of little habits that I want to work on, kind of piecing things together.
Okay.
But as far as the big stuff, what I really want is one, I want to make some real strides in the main quest, the big project, the big personal stuff. I'm working on a spaced repetition app, and I sometime in the next 3 months, and I'm sure this will be at the last day, but I want to begin alpha testing with other users, which means I have 3 months to like really get my shit together to where this can work, and it can work for somebody who isn't me, who designed this thing from the ground up and knows all the stupid quirks and how to work around the dumb stuff. Like, it's got to work. The server has to hold up to different people. It's got to make sense. And then ideally it's got to be in a state where whoever uses it would want to continue to use it and not just drop it after a couple days. So that's the big goal, is make that happen.
By
And
the
I,
end of the 3 months?
yes, I mean, it wouldn't, this isn't a release. This is a small private release to a few people.
Right,
You
right.
will be one of them, I hope. And
Perfect.
I got to get to that point. So that's a major goal. Um, and then just on a high level, some of the other things I've been thinking about that I want, less in terms of making something and more of just me and how I want to kind of continue to improve myself. I really I want to have more fun doing all of the things that I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's the end of that sentence. I want to have more fun doing
Okay.
all the things that I do. I keep thinking about this line that I heard. Um, I think I might have mentioned this before, but it's James Clear talking to Peter Attia about, I think this was Steffi Graf, who's a legendary tennis player. And they were doing some kind of, like, I don't know, testing aptitude test type of stuff with a bunch of tennis players, Steffi Graf being one of them, when they're really young. And they found that she was very talented. She had a lot of just athleticism and kind of things you would look for in a player. But they also found that she really, really, really liked to play tennis. And it was just really fun for her. And that's just what she wanted to do. And the observation was, man, there is no stopping somebody who just really likes to do it. And I've been thinking about that just as like a general concept of, man, the people who are really good at stuff, they really like it for the most part, right? Like, whatever it is, there's something about that process that they can just really throw themselves into and enjoy. And I think I haven't really been doing that so much.
Do you do you feel like you're not having fun? Like, where are you at now?
It's not that I'm not having fun. It's just I we've kind of been talking through this a little bit in the past few months, but I feel like I spend a lot of time analyzing and kind of judging and thinking, am I good at this? Am I bad at this? How am I doing? Am I progressing the way I should? There's just a lot of that, a lot of the self-one stuff. And not that that's always bad. I think there's definitely times when you do need to evaluate, but for the most part, I want to get more into the headspace where I'm able to do something and just kind of forget that I'm doing it. Where if I read a book, I'm always like checking the page number and how much farther for this chapter, how much is left here. And if I read for another hour, I think I'll be this far into it. 'Cause, like, I'm thinking so much about finishing the book just because I want to be done. Because I don't know. I guess I just do. I'm not sure why I'm so like my brain just is always thinking about the future and about, oh yeah, I'll be done with this and then that'll, I can go on to this next thing and whatever. And I want to just, if I pick up a book to read, I want to just be lost in the book where I'm not worried about where I am. I'm just reading it
Right.
and I forget how long I've been reading. Like that state of mind. And not just reading books, but for anything. I want to just be able to get lost in stuff. And that hasn't really been happening so much. Although I do think I've made some progress in the past weeks to months. But that's like a major goal.
That's kind of exactly where I'm at as well.
Okay. So what I mean, what do you want from the next 3 months? What are your goals?
Okay. Well, all right, backing up to the beginning. Doing this 3 month thing, um, it's actually it's been wonderful, but it's actually been very hard. And I kind of just want to talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
Having to pull yourself out of wherever you are after 3 months and then re-examine everything and think about the big picture. It forces you to really take and this whole program of splitting the year into 4 parts and then reviewing every 3 months or whatever. It's sort of like this like a reality machine. You take all these vague dreams, you put them into the year 4 part 3 month cycle machine, and then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden they are a specific date on the calendar, and you are actually doing the scary things, and it gets kind of scary. I had to finish a painting and put that out. That
Mm-hmm.
was scary, and now I have to start another one. And that's also scary. But I have to do it because it's now on the calendar. If it wasn't on the calendar, if it wasn't going through this weird reality machine, I could probably continue to put it off and make excuses and feel good about not getting
Mm-hmm.
to it. But with this whole system, it's forcing me to do the actual things that I want to do in the back of my mind that are just kind of scary. And so, I mean, there's all kinds of things that are going on the calendar that I'm actually going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels great, but there's definitely a healthy dose of fear in this year. And I'm kind of proud of that and also a little fearful.
Yeah.
but but it's not bad fear. It's like it feels good to be a little bit scared.
To me, it's like the kind of fear that procrastination is designed to get you around. It's the
Yeah.
kind of stuff where, like you said, like, oh, I'm actually going to do this. Like I am going to publicly release and show people my painting. That has to actually happen on a specific date. And the whole deal with procrastination is you always going, it's not that I'm not going to do it, it's that I'm not going to do it today. It's not, there's no concrete time, so it's fine. It'll just be later. And that's like that kind of fear is what we've been, honing our skills and avoiding.
Yeah. So, okay, talking about making things easier, or not even just easier, making them more fun. That's where I have ended up at as well. And I've kind of been talking about this for the last
Mm-hmm.
few months, I think. It's just finding ways to feel more natural in what you're doing and stuff like that. But okay, so I finished this painting, right? And for the last many years, for 6, 7 years, my goal really has been to do oil paintings. But I've had a full time job and whatever, and I've had tons of reasons to not do them, but I've still tried and failed throughout the years. So finally, I finish a painting, and I have my beef with the painting itself, but on a bigger scale, I did it. I
Yep.
accomplished this thing, and then it kind of, after years of having that as my goal, or my, I don't know, after years of finally accomplishing that, as soon as it was over with, it starts to flip, and then you think, okay, well then what's next? Or what am I really doing now? Now that I've proven that I can kind of do this,
Hmm.
what am I actually after? I mean, if you back out a bit, I said I wanted to be an independent artist someday, and I want to be able to kind of create this stuff. But I didn't really think past doing the first painting. It was, I've proven to myself that I can do one,
Right.
and now it's okay, well, I can't just do a painting every 8 months, because that's very few paintings a year. That's 1.5 paintings a year. And I can't do that. That doesn't give me anything. And so I think in my mind, I saw it as I could put out art like a full time independent artist could put out,
Hmm.
while also keeping a full time job and hardly having any time. And so at this point, I had to kind of, like, in the last week or so, I've had to really start thinking about, okay, what am I trying to accomplish here? What what should my process be like? Am I trying to do these big large paintings? Am I trying to build, I don't know, a big portfolio of work? I don't know. I've had to kind of step back and think, what am I working towards now? And I
Yeah.
think my answer is, I want more paintings, of course, but I have to find a system. Like, ideally, I would be able to put out a big, finished, ambitious painting, every month or every 2 weeks or something. But I don't have time for that, and I can't do that. So I'm going to do smaller paintings more frequently, hopefully. that that's my goal, is to, instead of work on uh, doing something really big, I'm going to work on just finishing
Hmm.
things quickly, and maybe the quality drops off a little bit. But I want to find a process where it feels good all the way through. I want to have fun with it, and I want it to go
Hmm.
quickly. And so I think for the next 3 months, I'm going to try to do 2 paintings. So in 3 months, or the last one I did one painting in 8 months. I want to do two in 3 months, but I want them to be about half the size, and I want to find a process that just feels good and fast all the way through. So I'm going to take every opportunity through the process to make everything easier. Like, learning to paint is one thing, but learning to finish paintings is a separate skill. And I learned this at work because I'm constantly finishing work. And I need to relearn this, or I need to learn this for the first time with oil painting, and for this type of work. So I want to transition to making the easy decision and the fun one. And so that's the process that I'm going to try to build. And then in the future, hopefully, I can expand that out to bigger stuff if I ever have more time. At work, we're given these extremely short deadlines, and I always finish them. And for the first, I don't know, when I first started working there, it was so hard. It was so hard to do, and you put out a lot of bad work. But at some point, you kind of learn how to pace yourself in a short amount of time, and you're doing an enormous amount of work, but you're making like all the right decisions, and it's you just know how to finish a piece.
No, I think I get what you're doing. Um, you know, part of me is like, I think about certain bosses I've had, or you know, crappy project managers or whatever, where you just get somebody breathing down your neck, going, "We got to have this done in by
Right.
tomorrow," and they did, like, it doesn't even matter what it is. It could be make your a copy of Facebook, you know, and it doesn't matter how big. Like, clone
Right.
Amazon, do it by tomorrow. And my feeling is, you can't just say things and make them exist. If it takes 10 years to do, then it takes 10 years to do. You can't just will it into one day. So part of me kind of feels that way. Like, well, if it takes you this long to do a painting, then it takes you this long to do a painting. You can't just say, well, I'm going to do it in a month and a half because that's what I
Right.
want. But what you're looking for is, hey, I want to put this constraint and I want it to change the way I paint. The hope is that you will be painting differently to where you actually can do a painting much faster because you're kind of forcing yourself to execute in a way that you weren't before, where you aren't having to second guess and redo. And right, is that
Yes. And
the concept?
I understand I understand how it sounds because last week I did a painting at work and the time frame was so short and the expectations were so big,
Right.
it they did not line up. And so I'm working on this painting and I feel nothing but stress and it was horrible and I hated it. It was bad results. It was all the wrong ways of how you do something. I
Yep.
should not have been expected to finish it that quickly and you can't meet those expectations that quickly. You can't do it. You need time to do that. So that's not what I'm trying to do because I'm trying to I don't want that feeling at all when I go to do this next painting. What I want is a time frame. And then whatever feels good in that time frame,
Right.
that's the expectation. I know again, I don't know if this will work. I might totally fail at this, but I want it to just feel good for a month and a half. That's how much the first painting should be. And then I do another one in a month and a half. And that should be two at the end of 3 months. Right now, I don't really have any huge expectations of what I want out of it. The only expectation I have is that I want to feel good through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny because I almost feel like I've gravitated towards the opposite idea, which is so last 3 month block, I did my exercise every day thing. Right, that was a major goal, and I've
Right.
pretty much accomplished that. And one thing I found, the objective of the exercise every day thing was that I was trying to take all these different goals and things that I had going in terms of fitness and take out a lot of the thinking where I'm not so worried about, oh, I got to get my 5K time down to this much in 2 months. Because I was doing that for a while and then I wound up with shin splints and wasn't, that sucked. And I kind of had to stop. And, I want to
Right.
lift this much by this time. Like I had all these, it was very goal oriented, but I kept like just kind of overcooking things and trying to do too much at one time or oscillating back and forth. We've talked about this, right? But I really wanted this stuff to be simple, where just every day I wake up and I just go do whatever is on the agenda for exercise and I don't think about it and I'm not worried about how I'm recovering or whatever. And just I make the decisions at these very particular points along the way, but I'm not worrying about it every day. So I did that and it worked great. I still am doing fitness stuff every day. And it's been like, now that it's been a little over 3 months, it's like really starting to kick in that, oh, this is amazing. I feel really good. And I'm genuinely starting to make progress. My brother in law was here this past week. And he recently did a half marathon a little while ago. He did a lot of running, like, somebody who just runs a lot. And I've always kind of been like, oh, okay, well, I'm not really a runner. I'm just whatever. But he's here. He's like, hey, you want to go for a run? I'm like, okay, sure. Pretty sure I can do it. And it was great. It was fantastic. We're out there. We did like a 6 mile run twice, I think. And it
Nice.
was it was no problem for me. Like I felt really good. We get done. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna run the last half mile. Go fast. I'm like, okay, me too, and no problem. Like I felt great, and it kind of hit me like, oh no, I'm a runner now. Like I haven't been able to switch this in my head. I'm still just somebody who's trying it out to, whatever imposter syndrome type thing. But after that, I'm like, no, I'm actually getting reasonably good at this. Within the amateur space, whatever. But it felt great, and we're he's looking at doing another half marathon or marathon or something. We're looking at different training plans. Like, oh man, this would be really hard. This training plan for the half marathon, you got to run for this many hours a week and this and that. And like, okay, this day is an easy day. This day's a long day. And I'm thinking about it like I could do that because I run 4 times a week, like non-optionally. That is my program. That's what I do now. So I run 4 times a week. And so if you look at the training plan, it's almost like I don't need to set a goal. I don't need to say, okay, for the next 3 months, I'm going to do this really hard thing. Because if you compare that to what my current training plan is, it's like it fits where, how do I say this? It's like I'm training all the time and there's no decision there. I'm just doing it because that's the plan now. It's like I've built this engine and it takes me forward where I'm doing something every day and I'm getting faster and I'm getting stronger and
See that
it's not something to make decisions about anymore. It just
that
happens.
and the fact that you don't even have a thought of, who you are as a runner. It's just this thing that you started doing and you're enjoying the ride. You're just going. You're not calling yourself Mike the runner, or
Right.
you're not you're not caught up in that. You don't have this part of your, I don't know, your person defined as runner. You're just doing it. And I think that's perfect. That's where you want to be with any of this stuff. That's where I want
Yeah.
to get back to with art is, previously, finishing a painting. Oh, well, it's the first painting I would post in years. Is this what I want people to know me by? I don't want any of that. I want to do a painting. If the idea is good or bad, I don't want to care. I just want to keep, I
Yeah.
paint 4 times a week or whatever. You go running 4 times a week without a thought as to what you are as a runner.
Right.
You go do the thing and you're along for the ride. I want to keep painting, putting out paintings, and then just keep going and not give a second thought to who
Yeah.
I am, or who I'm perceived as, or whatever. I just want to keep going. And so it, there's a weirdness for me putting a deadline on the
Hmm.
paintings. And I'm just curious because I've never done it this way for this type of work. I've never put a deadline on it. But in some ways, the deadline is freeing because once the deadline's over,
Right.
you go on to the next one, and it keeps it small. So it keeps the scope of work contained.
Yeah.
And because of that, it's a little bit less scary. I don't want the stress of, oh my god, I gotta finish this thing, or whatever, and then I'm
Right.
staying up all night and I'm miserable. I don't want that at all. And if it gets to that, well, then I'm doing something wrong because I
Right.
need to enjoy this all the way through.
Yeah, to me, the one potential use of a deadline is to try and pressure you into choosing to spend your time on something versus not. Right? If you
Right.
were every day you're just watching Netflix and goofing around and wasting all your time, like, oh, well, I didn't do it again, whatever. Who cares? I'll get it done eventually. Then putting a deadline in place could be really good to try and fix that problem of, okay, this has to be done in 6 weeks. So you don't get to goof around and watch Netflix all night. You have to work on the painting. So that is like a common usage of a deadline. And it does not sound like that's the boat that you're in because,
Well,
or is
what
it?
I want what I want that for, I want the deadline to pressure my decision making.
Right.
Because I was watching myself doing this previous painting, and it's, you come up with all these options or different ways of going, and you think, what's the right answer? What's the absolute best right answer? And this is,
Yeah.
what perfectionists claim as their way of thinking. And it's very heavy. Like that's an impossible decision to make.
Yeah.
Have I reviewed every bit of art knowledge ever on the planet? And what does all of that equal in this instance? What is the right answer? I don't have a clue what the right answer is.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is you want a little bit of pressure of what is the best answer that you can make right now. That's what I want. So you put a little deadline on there, then you don't sit there and ponder over, 2 different pencil sketches. Which one is the right answer? I don't know. You just want to go, okay, well, today the best answer is the one on the right. So you
Yeah.
grab that one and you move forward with that. And then you build on top of that. And you make decisions quickly. That's where I want the pressure to be, is on the
Right.
decision making.
Yeah. I see it as, and I get what you're saying. So to me, the thing that I've been so happy with is this idea that I spend a chunk of time doing something every day, and then that just kind of carries you forward. Where you keep
Mhm.
doing that, you're going to be making progress. I've been working on my software project every morning for about an hour and a half, and so I just make progress on it because I don't have to wake up and go, "Oh no, deadline's coming up. I better get to work," or whatever. I'm
Right.
just doing it every day and it feels really good. And so as long as I don't get too wandered off into some unproductive corner of things, it continues to make progress every day. So the advantage I think of what you're after, because it sounds like you're doing that too, right? You're just spending
Yeah.
time working on this
Hmm.
thing. You're trying to create some kind of condition that causes essentially you to be more efficient in that process. Where when you sit down to paint for an hour, you're getting more done than you would have otherwise because you're trying to kind of force yourself to think a certain way to where you're painting better in a sense.
I mean, that's the hope. I
Yeah,
don't know if this will work. It's just an experiment.
yeah,
So, and and there's a weirdness to this kind of thing. With running, you go out and you run. Unless you're training for a specific event, like a specific race, then you're just, you go out your 4 days a week and you just keep improving. And it's kind of up to you to push yourself or whatever. Um, but there's no like closing date on things. It's
right.
not you had to hit X amount of miles in a month or X amount of hours in whatever. For what I'm doing, there needs to be a close. I can't work
Yeah,
on one painting forever. I just did that. I don't want to do that. I
yeah,
need a close. I need it to I need it to be a cycle. I need to go through the process all the way through. Whether
right.
it's a success or not, I don't really want to care about right now. Eventually, that's a concern. But right now, I just want to go through the whole process multiple times, learn what it's like to go from initial idea all the way to finish. I'm not trying to make a masterpiece. I'm trying to understand what a fun process looks like from start to finish and how can I strengthen that and build that. So, I'm yeah, at least that's
Yeah.
the goal.
Okay, so changing tax a little bit here. Something I've been thinking about a lot. Um, and I'm curious if you have any thoughts along these lines too, but I've kind of been interested in this idea that, well, let me back up. Last 3 months, I had basically three things that I wanted to do. Like I said, there was the wake up at the same time, the exercise every day, and then the, be more focused at work, don't get distracted, that kind of stuff. And of course, the first two worked great because they were super concrete and I could check off a box every day if I did it or not. And then the third one sucked because that's super mushy and vague. But it doesn't mean that it isn't an important thing. Like I am still very concerned and really wanting to address this tendency of me to just get very sucked into all kinds of distracting things. Like it's very important to me. It's just it's hard to say yes, today check mark, didn't get distracted, or oh no,
Right.
today I failed, right? Like it's too messy and it's too much of a continuous blurry thing. So it got me thinking like the binary stuff is very actionable. If I can say yes I did this or no I didn't, that's great. That's the kind of thing you can put on the chart and check off every day. It's the kind of thing that I can work on for a month. But if it's messy and vague, like I don't want to be as distracted or I want to have more fun when I'm doing stuff,
Right.
that doesn't work so well. It's what I want, it's important to me, but I don't know how to act on that, right? So, because it's almost like a feeling or a mental narrative. It's not, I can't just do it or not do it. It's like the outcome of what I need. So I've been trying to kind of think about this a little differently in that, okay, if this is my goal, I want to figure out the recipe to create that effect, so to speak. So I've been trying to, like with the not getting as distracted stuff, I've been trying to kind of break that down into some distinct habits or basic rules that I can check off as yes, I did this or no, I didn't. So, one obvious one is I could meditate every day. And then I could check a box if I did that or not. And I could do that for a month. And I could, hope that the outcome of that thing of meditating every day is going to be me being calmer and more focused and more present and so on. So that's like a potential ingredient into getting that result. Um, I recently watched a video from Dr. K about, he kind of had this, somebody posted this in Discord, I think, but he kind of had this idea of like applying intermittent fasting principles to using technology, to where you kind of box out a chunk of time where you're allowed to use the computer and the phone and everything, but then at the end of that window, you're done and you're just not allowed to do that stuff anymore. So for him, he was doing 8 hours a day, and that included work and gaming and everything. And then any time outside of that was read a book, write stuff in a page or in a notebook or whatever, but you can't use your phone, you can't use computers and stuff. That's a pretty fascinating idea to me. I've been kind of gravitating towards that a little bit just on my own, but hearing him kind of explain his experience was pretty interesting. So I'm kind of thinking about doing that. But I think this is kind of similar to what you're saying, in that you want a result out of you. Like, you want to be thinking, more freely and more naturally, and just making decisions quickly and not agonizing over the results. And so you're going to create some kind of rule for yourself that is supposed to help create that effect. Right?
Right.
So I'm been trying to think about that for me in a very different way, but I've been trying to come up with, okay, what are the binary things, the things I can check off or not, the concrete stuff that will create these effects in me, of me feeling like I'm having more fun, or just feeling more natural doing things, not getting distracted, sucked into tech, that kind of things.
Okay, so when you look at what you want, or you're reviewing yourself, and you are seeing, okay, I'm getting distracted too much. I'm looking at my phone too much. I'm watching too much YouTube,
Yeah.
or whatever you're doing. Do you just immediately think, okay, well, looking at my phone too much is bad because it makes me feel bad, and watching too much, YouTube videos or whatever, that's bad because then I feel kind of icky afterwards or whatever.
Yeah.
I need to not do that. I think if you're focusing on what it's causing too much, you lose. How do I say this right? I think it helps much more to find the reason to not do those things. Like, what is it that you want out of the positives?
Yeah.
Focus as much as you can on the result you would have if you didn't do those things and you were like, ultimate Mike. What does that look like? If you can really define what you want out of ultimate Mike, ultimate happy, joyous, sunshine Mike, if you can define that, then it becomes very clear what the actionable items are. Not necessarily, but it's helping me. I think all the talk we had about, actually all the talk we didn't have, because I think the podcast cut off on that one episode. But anyway, I went on this rant about how important events, or actual tying yourself to an actual event, like for running, it might help if you had a race that you were getting ready for, or with me, it helps to have some kind of deadline so I can pace myself and finish that and then move on to the next one, and then I have another event, right? An actual date on the calendar for stuff. And it works backwards. It fills in everything behind it, where, I signed up, I use this as an example a lot, but I signed up for like an obstacle race thing. I guess that's all it's called. And working backwards from that exact date, all of a sudden I have a reason to exercise again. I have a reason to pass up being lazy on certain days. I have a reason to say no to certain distractions because I have a reason to do the right thing. And so I think for a long, or many times, I have focused strictly on what I'm doing wrong, of, oh, I'm watching too much YouTube, I need to not do that. Well, then, okay, you don't do that, but then you don't know what the hell to actually do,
Yeah.
right? So you just end up doing the same thing. And it becomes very hard to remember why you're not doing it in the first place. So I guess all I'm saying is make sure you know what you actually want. Because it could be very possible that you're just lacking a reason not to get distracted. You know, your brain's sitting there and going, I don't know what else to do. So looking at my phone is the most valuable thing to me. So I'm going to go do it. And so, of course, you can't stop doing it. Or it becomes a problem. Or it's not even a problem. Or you might see it that way, but it becomes a pattern of behavior. And then
Yeah.
you notice that there are bad side effects to that. But you aren't focusing on what you actually want or what the benefits are to not doing those things are.
And that is a consideration too. I mean, I take the point for sure. The plan is not to just cut out a whole bunch of stuff and then I
Right, right,
sit around and I'm unbearably bored all the time. That's not my vision of, perfect me. But
right.
I do notice a lot that it's almost as if there's this kind of baseline level of uh, amusement or distraction, uh where it's like I need something to be this interesting to capture my attention. Last week at work, actually, was tasked with this project of trying to come up with some system to clone somebody's voice. It's this AI text to speech thing to clone somebody's voice and create this fake version of them. This is consensual. This person asked this to be done. It's not like doing something nefarious, but the project was to clone this person's voice and come up with all these like generated voice lines and things around this person. And so I start getting into it and I'm like, this is cool. This is really fun. And I'm getting totally sucked in and days go by and like I'm just really having a good time with it. But that was like very interesting. It's a brand new technology that hasn't really existed, and so it's super cool.
Yeah.
But so that was enough to where it's more interesting than all the other stuff kind of bubbling around me, the Discord conversations I'm looking at and the random things that are on YouTube and whatever. It's like, cool. So I go after this thing. But then once that project ends and it's back to the stuff that's just kind of mundane of, okay, update this text box, make this image crop differently. It's like, and that's way below that threshold of stuff. So it's just not very interesting. And so I'm just tending to get distracted and whatever. So if I feel like lowering that threshold lower, where I'm not constantly switching contexts and getting distracted and doing all that stuff, it's like it doesn't take so much to be interesting anymore. Or if I pick up a book and it's okay, I can read it. It's like, yeah, this is cool. I'm pretty willing to sit here and read this pretty okay book. Where as before, if that threshold is higher, where I really want to go get distracted and pick up my phone and do stupid things on my phone and whatever, then it's like it's really hard to be comfortable doing that. So I what you're saying is totally true in that I want to be doing things that I think are more valuable. I would rather be reading books than
Right.
scrolling through Reddit all the time. But it's kind of two sides of the same coin where if I'm able to cut down on a lot of this stuff, then reading a book becomes a lot more appealing. If you're stuck in a room with nothing to do except a book, eventually you're like, gonna read the book. But if you're battling this constant distraction all the time, like the desire to read it is not really there. So I've thought about
Right.
it from both sides, and there's things that I want to do. I want to be playing guitar. I had set a goal to do that a few months ago, and it's not really happening right now. I was doing it and kind of fell off and whatever, and like I really want to be doing that. So I want to be reading more. I want to be playing guitar. I'd like to be playing piano as well. I have a bunch of stuff where it's like, yeah, I want to do these things, but I hardly ever want to do them in the short term because of this problem.
Okay, well, this is one tiny aspect, but I wonder if, you know, the act of playing guitar or that want of, oh, I want to play guitar, that can be considered about as boring as reading a boring book, okay? In comparison to amazing flashing flashy Reddit or, something interesting online. But if you make that a little bit more interesting of, oh, I want to play guitar because I'm doing a show in a month from now, which that's another thing I have to do this next 3 months.
Yeah.
I have to play in a band and do another show in like a month. So I'm going to be practicing guitar a lot. But anyway, if you can take, I don't think you should play a show because you
Yeah,
would be
it's
miserable.
not happening.
But can you tie it to some sort of event that would be more exciting, and it would fill in backwards a bit more excitement into every day of you playing guitar? Add a little pressure to it, add a little bit of excitement, add something bigger, and move it up in the scale of excitement level in comparison to everything else.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean,
At the same
that's
time,
I maybe this doesn't apply, but that's how I fixed my exercising problem, because I kept thinking, oh,
yeah,
well, I need to exercise, or I want to play guitar, but I want to exercise, I need to exercise. But then it comes down to it, oh, I really don't feel like doing that. That sounds awful, so no thanks. Even though I want the long-term benefits of it,
right.
it's too hazy and too boring. So tying it to an actual event and and actually tying it to multiple events, going rock climbing, doing a ropes course, or doing all these different things, it makes it exciting. It brings the level of excitement up. And working out now seems more fun. And I've also, gained some momentum, and it
Yeah.
builds and it becomes more exciting. I know that's just one side of it, but
No, I do agree. But at the same time, like, I used to play guitar for fun. I
oh,
should be able to play guitar for fun.
no, I don't think so. Think about it. Why did you play guitar? It was at the center, the center of your social life. You know, you're good at guitar.
Well,
People think you're really cool.
I have
You
never had a
you play
social
good.
life. But
Okay, your minuscule social life, and yes, you did have a social life. Maybe not a big one, but you had one. You played guitar in groups. You played it at school. You played it in front of people. This was a part of your being. Okay, now
yeah.
it's just a little instrument in the back of your room that no one hears, except like there is no importance. There's nothing attached to it other than guitar. I should be able to play it for fun. I don't think so. The reason why it was fun before, I think, were for much different reasons than you're thinking. I think it's way more complicated. It was tied in or woven into so much more of your life back then,
I
and
mean,
that's why you
it
saw it as fun.
was. Yeah, it was for sure. But I also, I mean, I picked it up. I mean, I was obsessed with playing it. I picked it up in the first place because I thought it was fun. Like, I don't know that it had become a part of my identity at the start.
I think that thinking that way of, oh, I should just enjoy it. I'm just gonna beat myself until I enjoy it. I think that's wrong. And I think one of the reasons why you probably enjoyed it back then, and this goes for really anything, is because it was novel and new. I
Yeah.
also think it's because it was attached to a lot of other stuff in your life. But just off of that, it's novel and it's new. Now, when you look at it, it's this old thing you've been looking at for however many years, a lot of years. We
Yeah.
are old. It's this thing that's been in your room for all these years. There's nothing new about it. Okay, and your skills have surely gone downhill a bit since
Mhm.
last time you were at your best. When you're at your best, you're pushing on newer and newer things, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
Now you're having to work all the way back up, and nobody wants to do that. That's boring. So if you want to be excited about guitar again, you need to make it new. It has to be as new to you as it was back then. Find some new angle on it. Make it exciting again. Don't expect it to be as it was before, because it's not. It's totally different now. So I think you can go about it in at least two ways. One is you up the level of excitement for the thing that deep down you actually want to do. So you make guitar more exciting. Take that seriously and make it actually more exciting. Okay? That's one level. The other way, and the, or the other way you can also do uh, is get rid of the things that seem more exciting. And I think that's kind of been your main
Yeah.
tactic right now, is weed out all the distractions.
Well, and to be clear, the stuff that is like comparing it just in terms of excitement doesn't quite capture it.
Right.
because scrolling through Reddit, looking at stupid videos of random things, like
Right.
I'm not excited about it. I'm like, sweet, yes, I get to do that tonight. It feels crappy. It's like just eating junk. Oh, there's a bunch of leftover Halloween candy in the pantry. I'm gonna eat all of it tonight. Like that's what it feels like. It feels bad. Whereas if someone said, "Hey, do you want to go out to like this really cool restaurant? They do this, 3-course meal with all this fancy stuff, and it's awesome," or like special sushi. That's exciting. That's cool. But it's a pain. You got to go out. You got to
Right.
dress up a little bit or whatever. It's a whole deal. You got to make awkward conversation in a weird restaurant. But it's like it's cool. It's special. That's kind of the equivalent there. Like I keep choosing the lazy, garbagey stuff where like, you know what? I could play guitar. I could get it off the wall. I could whatever. But it's like, nah. I'll just waste time. I'll just do whatever. And so there's definitely two parts to it of trying to make the guitar more appealing, but at the same time it's also I really got to kind of get the junky stuff out of the house, right? Like I've said this before,
Yeah.
my diet revolves around the decisions I make at the grocery store. I really just don't
Yeah.
have the willpower to deal with it at home. If it's in the pantry all the time staring me in the face, I'm gonna eat it. That's just what's gonna happen. I fought that battle for a long time, realized it's not for me. I just have to not have it. But I'm running into the same type of problems with technology and all the distractions that are just kind of waiting for me there. And it's hard to come to the same place because I can't really cut it out of my life entirely. I actually have to have it. It's part of my job. It's part of all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
But I bet you could cut it out way more than you do.
I
And
agree. I agree. And
I
I'm trying to figure that out.
oh, man, now that my computer shuts off, which it will shut off in 20 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and it stays shut off, it weirdly has changed my life. It's like this simple little thing of my
Right.
computer shutting
That's
off. I
what I'm
don't waste.
saying.
Yes, that's what I want for you. I want this. It's yeah, not to
Like
be that guy that like quits drinking coffee and then tries to
no, I know.
convince
Be
everyone
that
else.
guy.
I yeah, it happened almost incidentally, and then all of a sudden my computer, all those wasted hours on YouTube and Reddit are gone, and I feel so much healthier and better. I mean, you could hear it in the show for the last like 2 months or whatever. I've been talking about how good I feel, and it's
Right.
because I actually feel really good. And it's, you tell yourself all the time, oh, well, sometimes your brain just needs to relax and watch hours and hours of just bullshit YouTube videos or scroll Reddit. No, it doesn't. Your brain never wants that. You think you want that. You never want that. You never, ever need that. Sometimes it's nice to watch a good movie, okay? It's nice to watch a good show. Those things can make you feel good. But to scroll forever on these shitty websites that just ruin it sucks. Your brain doesn't want that. Trust me, it doesn't want that. And when you're away from it for an actual amount of time, you begin to see, oh yeah, that's really bad. So I want that for you. I want that for
That's
everyone. I want it to stay that way for me. It's like get off your computer. Like get
that's
off
what I'm
your
saying.
phone.
I think that's it. Like we're talking about like, oh, you gotta come up with a way to make guitar better. You gotta whatever. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
all
yeah.
that applies, but
You're right.
all of that stuff pales in comparison. Like
You are
it's the
right.
phones
Yes.
and the computers. That's what it is. That's the secret. Is that stuff is sucking up all of my energy and mental space and attention.
Yeah. You need something more ruthless than your inability to say no to this stuff.
Yeah.
Uh yeah. You need an exact shut off point at some point in the day. Like you need something stronger
Yeah.
than you, which shouldn't be too hard because by the end of the day or whenever you're getting distracted, you don't have the willpower to say no. So come up with a system that
Yeah.
knows what's best for you.
I'm working on that. I'm trying to engineer
Yeah.
figure out a plan for what that looks like. Because again, I can't go cold turkey without literally changing my entire life, and I'm not doing that. Like I have my job is I work remote on a computer doing software stuff, so that has to be part of it. I'm not gonna be I'm not gonna go
Right.
hunt moose in the mountain or anything. So that has to be there. My personal project is software based. So like I have to do it. I got to figure out a way to coexist with technology.
Remember a long time ago, we were talking about this idea of if you can go this whole length of a project and you build off of all your previous decisions. And a lot of times, whatever decision you made at the beginning, you just stick with all the way through the whole way. When really you need to be able to reconsider some of those decisions, even if you're very far away from them. So for you, the way you do your work, I think you should step way back. I mean, maybe you already have, but step as far back as you possibly can, reevaluate the entire way that you work on a computer, what's on your computer, the way you go about it, the time frame you do it in, reevaluate everything. One thing that I want to do this next 3 months is, and maybe I'll push off to the next, but reevaluate my entire oil painting setup. I have a tabaret, I have a drawing desk, my chair. I hate my chair. I want to rethink all my furniture and just, because my drawing desk is too short, my chair's too stupid, and my tabaret is too old and doesn't work right. Like I want to rethink all the very basic level stuff. And I think I have faith that you can come up with a very creative solution if you look at the whole and the way you work. Because I have these same things for myself, so it's not that it's not true, but the number one thing you keep saying whenever we talk about these distractions is, I have to have it because of my job. I have to have it because I work on a computer. And though that may be true in part, I want to make sure that it's not just a blind spot for you, that you're not looking down.
Yeah.
You're choosing not to look for solutions down that road because there's a big sign that says dead end. Push the sign over and go down the road and see what happens.
Right. No. And I agree. And one of the things that Dr. K was talking about, he was describing his intermittent fasting approach to technology and how he has 8 hours to do work, and he's Mr. Healthy Gamer, or Dr. Healthy Gamer, so he does gaming and stuff like that. It's like, well, how would you do if you only have 8 hours? How can you work and game and do all this stuff? And it's like, well, actually, you'd be surprised where at work you don't actually have to be at a computer every second. And he describes how he has this big notebook and he actually writes out a bunch of ideas and does everything on paper. And then he spends the first hour or two of his day just working it out on paper and then going to the computer later on during the tech window. And so actually he's not spending 8 hours a day at work on a computer. He's doing it only a subset of that time. And then for gaming, it kind of leaves some time for that. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe there are ways that I can work or do some aspects of work without actually being in front of a computer. So that's one thing I'm thinking about. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work out because I'm a coder and whatever, but it's an idea. The other is that I was thinking about my desktop environment. I've described this a little bit before, how it hit me one day, a month or two ago, that, oh my God, I did this entirely backwards. I spent all my time trying to come up with the most fluid, easiest, most ergonomic desktop setup ever, where it's super easy to go from the browser to the coding to this and that. And like, well, actually, that's the opposite. I want it to be hard to switch contexts. I don't want to have a million windows open and I know exactly where they are. I can get to every one of them at the touch of a button. That's wrong. So I started thinking, wait, I need to put some friction between me and getting to the browser and stuff like that. So I did do some of that. But now I'm thinking, okay, that actually was helpful, but it's not solving the problem. There's still just way too much going on here. So even today, I was trying to figure out, I've been working on this. I want to design a environment in the computer that's text only, where you can't see pictures or anything. All you can do is type into a text thing.
This is what I'm talking about. This sounds cool.
Yeah. And I figured out how to disable the touchpad or the mouse. So you can't move a mouse anywhere. And so it just, you boot into this mode in the computer, and I have to try to make sure there's a lot of friction between getting out of this mode and back into normal mode, right? Kind of in the same way that you have your computer shut down. You can still get to the computer, but it's a pain because you got to boot it up. So I'm trying to come up with this mode where I boot into this mode in the computer, text only, no mouse, only one window. You can't move to a different space. It's just one thing, and it's just text. And so I can write code that way because that's text. I could do random text things. I can write notes. I could look up Wikipedia or things like that as long as it's text only, but there's no images or anything. So that's something I'm working on, and that's going to take some figuring out. But it's kind of a weird concept to think I'm going to design this environment for myself, and the goal is not to do everything and be super slick. It's actually to do very little and to force me to be in this very constrained environment. So that's an idea I'm kind of pursuing, that maybe I can spend the first 2 hours of my workday in text only mode, where that's all I'm doing, and I can't get on Discord, I can't get on anything else. That's an avenue.
I like that. That seems creative, and
Yeah.
so yeah, that sounds cool. Is there anything? We only got 12 minutes. Is there anything that is unclear or undecided or just kind of you're not sure about for the next 3 months?
Yeah. So like I said, I've kind of been thinking about this handful of small habits. I wanted to take a little bit of a different approach than doing the big habits that are really hard. So I have, I have a bunch of 2-minute habits that are kind of on deck, 2-minute meditation once a day, 2-minute guitar playing. And if anybody didn't listen to these, we did some podcasts before on this idea of the 2-minute habit, and it's actually great. It's a really cool way of doing a habit. So I've kind of got a bunch of these.
Wait, you've been doing these?
No, these are kind of
okay.
ready to go for this month. I have not been doing these. But I have a list of things that I'm interested in. So one thing I'm not too sure about is, do I just do everything at once? Like, new life, new me, there's 10 new things that I'm doing every day, or should I kind of introduce once a week, or what? I kind of did the one habit at a time previously, but they were really big, like disruptive, spending an hour plus exercising every day is like a pretty monstrous thing to shove into your life. So I did it one at a time, and that worked well, but I'm not sure if that's the way to do it here or not. So I was thinking one a week, all at once. I don't know.
I think that one is better than all, because if you remember, then the biggest benefit was the time you spent thinking about that subject later in the day. So you work on it for 2 minutes and then you think about it through the whole day. And right. I think if you're doing 10 different things, I don't know. I think you're restricting each one.
That's kind of what I was leaning towards too. Plus I don't want to get in that mode of like, everything's amazing, I'm going so hard, and then switching, like the Luigi Waluigi thing. I think there's kind of a risk there where you're just like, forget it, everything falls down.
But part of me also really wants to see you try to do 10 2-minute challenge things, like all in a row every day for a while, and see what happens.
Well, that would be the goal, like to get there. So it might still happen.
Yeah, so I guess try them both, because you really won't know until you do them.
I might do kind of the like streak system where, okay, if I pick one, if I do that for 3 days, add another, do those two for 3 days, add another, and then if you miss one, then it goes back down.
Then it goes down. Yeah I like that idea.
Might be fun.
Anything else?
This isn't something that isn't clear. This is very clear. I am going to do 1 month starting tomorrow of don't unplug the phone. That I'm pretty sure about. That needs to happen. That's a long time. So. And
you're going to be as serious as we were before, where?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a couple concessions for. Well, basically, just if I need to go somewhere, I'm gonna bring the phone with me because I don't want to starve to death because my credit card stopped working, and so.
Right.
But other than that, it's gonna be if I'm at home, normal circumstances, the phone stays plugged in, and I can only use it if it's plugged in by the coffee pot.
You can also delete apps. That always.
I've deleted all of the apps. There's no apps left.
Right. Yeah.
There's a web browser, and that's all it takes to get distracted.
You can block websites.
I find there's other websites. Turns out there's a lot of them.
Right.
That's a fool's errand.
All right. Well, Yeah. Well, for me, I'm also going to Portland next month.
Hmm.
I don't know if I already said that, but that's on my list of things. And there's actually quite a few things. Like there's that concert in 1 month. I have to learn 10, 12 songs or practice a bunch of them or yeah, I got to work on that. So that's going to take a bunch of my time and then going to Portland and then I have quite a few things this next 3 months that are coming up that have nothing to do with art. Uh, and so juggling all of that and trying to work faster, I really don't know how this is going to go. It might be a really stupid idea to try to do more in less amount of time and make it easier. Maybe those things don't mix for, I don't know.
I'm there's a part of me that is a little bit skeptical, but I am
Me
interested
too.
to see, what happens. If nothing else, you should learn something, and that's cool. So,
But well, in doing this life drawing class, I'm only there for 2.5 hours once a week. Okay. But through that 2.5 hours, I'm doing way more figure drawing and more productive figure drawing than I have done in a very long time.
yeah,
And it's a shorter amount of time, and it produces more results because it's very focused. You only have that time frame, and so I'm trying to take that and put it into other things in my life because it's really working. So yeah,
there's a service I heard of once. I never tried it. It's called Hire a Boss.
you told me about that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if it's still around, but it's a cool idea. You pay somebody to be your boss and like yell at you for not getting stuff done. And it seems like maybe you could use that or something like it to create that environment where somebody's like, "Hey, I don't care that you
Yeah,
need more time. It's done. So
but
next
see,
thing."
I hate getting yelled at work to be,
Yeah,
hey,
I
we
know,
need this
but
piece. It's like,
if that's what works, I don't know.
but I don't, yeah, it's weird because I don't want that stress. I just want the good pressure.
Hmm.
Is that possible? I want
I
a
don't
good
know.
feeling deadline. I want good fear. I don't want bad stress. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I guess you can try to find out, but
Okay, can we summarize this whole episode in 6 minutes?
okay. Well, you 3 minutes. What's your plan? And then I'll say what my plan is.
My plan is to do more paintings in less amount of time because I want to focus on finishing paintings and I want to focus on feeling good. And I hope, my theory is that the only way to actually finish something quickly, this type of thing, is to do it naturally and to do what feels good. Because if I'm running into too much frustration, I won't be able to do it. So it's the sword and the stone. I must have a pure heart in order to accomplish this. And so it's just an experiment. It might be a complete failure, but I won't know until I try it. So I'm going to try this. And yeah, so I'm going to try to do 2 paintings in the next 3 months. I'm also going on a trip to Portland. I'm going to be on that side of the screen. And then I'm also playing a concert with like a lot of songs, and I got to practice that. So I'll be playing a lot of guitar. And I also got an obstacle course race coming up. So a bit of exercise stuff. And yeah, I'm sure there's more, but that's about it.
Cool.
Okay, you go.
Okay. Uh, I keep thinking about that line that it's hard to beat the guy having fun,
Right.
and I want to be the guy having fun. So I'm gonna work on that. And the more I think about it, the more I think it's the phone and the computer that's screwing me up.
It sucks
Just
all the fun out of
yeah,
everything else. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I like we can go back and forth on all kinds of things. I think that's really the major thread.
Yes, if
And
you give someone crack, all of a sudden nothing else is all that exciting. And, you know, so
did you have you heard that joke? Ah, I forget the comedian, but he's like talking about how there's this new drug in the market. Like the news is like, oh, there's this new drug. It's called cheese. It has Tylenol PM and heroin. And he's like, I think it's the heroin that's doing the damage. So yeah, same thing here. It's the heroin. It's
right.
the yeah. So I need to kick the heroin habit, which in this case is spending all my time doing
I
stupid
hope
stuff.
someone misquotes you.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah. That's what I really got to work on. It's hard because it can't really just go to cold turkey. So there's got to be a lot of things that all play into making that better. Kind of like a diet. Still got to eat without eating too much and eating bad things. So that's my main goal for this 3 months. That's what I'm after. Okay. Good luck to everyone else in your 3-month plan, journey, whatever. See you on the other side.